We have an Eastman acoustic guitar that belongs to a YouTuber that brought it over here for service. So this time we're going to do a detailed assessment of the guitar. So not a review because it's not a new guitar, he bought it used. But I'll show you how I do an assessment. It's coming up. I really hope I don't have to stay up too late again tonight editing this video. Yeah, and if I do, it's all your fault. Yeah, because if you weren't watching these videos, I wouldn't have to make them, right? So today, I'll show you how I do a full assessment of a guitar. So when a customer brings a guitar to a guitar quackery, first thing I do is I look at the guitar through a microscope, okay? And I call that an assessment. And I do that so that I know what's wrong with the guitar, obviously. Interestingly enough, the guitar you're going to see today belongs to another YouTuber, right? And his name is Shantanu, right? So remember that. There's an old Chinese proverb that says, oh, excuse me, guitar quackery. Oh, okay, yeah. I'll put a link to your channel. All right, thanks for reminding me. Hi guys, I'll put a link to Shantanu's channel below so you can check out his channel. So, as I was saying, there's an old Chinese proverb that says, excuse me, guitar quackery. All right, I'll tell them to like, share, and subscribe. All right, thank you, bye. You heard that, right? So, as I was saying, there's an old Chinese proverb that says, if you want to make some money, don't give it away for free. Makes sense, right? So what am I talking about? Well, I stay up late editing these videos and, you know, I kind of like to make some money off of them. So I'm making some money already, yeah, through the ads, but I am going to start something new, okay? So some of the videos are going to be split into two versions, okay? The free version and the paid version. The paid version is going to be posted on Patreon, and there's a link below so you can sign up. On the Patreon account, you can watch the full version of the video. Okay, this is going to be the first one. Yeah, so in the free version, you will see the full assessment and, you know, little edits of the repair process. And on Patreon, exclusive content, you will see the full repair version of this video. Okay, so check it out. And this way you support this channel and I can keep making more videos. Makes sense, right? So welcome back to Guitar Quackery and let's get to work. This guitar was purchased on Reverb for $500. It's used, so we want to have a close look at everything. It's an Eastman E2 OMCD, whatever that means. Serial number 139-55132. Let's have a closer look at the guitar. We'll start from the back. It's got a nice back, I think. Yeah. So this is book matched. You can see two book matched. Kind of looks like dimples. All right. I think it's a maple neck. And yeah, I'll show you some close-ups. As you can see, it's got open tuners. there's a scarf joint right here, similar to a Taylor scarf joint. It does look like maple to me. That's been stained. We always want to check the heel joint just to make sure there's no gap. There isn't. This is tortoiseshell. Well, I mean, it's plastic, but yeah. Just like that. Looks pretty nice. That's what I was talking about, here and here. And I don't even see the center seam. Can kind of see it here, I think. Barely. But I think this looks pretty nice. It's like two eyes or two dimples. Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's have a look at this. This is the strap button. Let's see how tight it is. Pretty well, not tight enough. So we want to make sure that we well, I'll just shim it a little bit. I'll put a little tape around it or something. I don't know. Paper. I don't want to glue it in. Okay, now the other side of the guitar. It's got vintage style bushings. No truss rod at the headstock. The truss rod is here. Adjustable truss rod. What are these? Pearl inlays? Or maybe faux pearl? I don't know. Fretwork looks pretty good. We have a bone nut. Ebony fingerboard. Ebony bridge. Now, this looks like a really high saddle. Whenever I see a high saddle, I assume that the neck is overset. But the action is actually so high, I don't even want to bother measuring it. So there's obviously work to be done here. And we'll go over the specs. Let me show you this label. Soundboard is pretty nice, book matched like this. There's a ding right here and a ding right here. So lightly played. No bridge lift, I checked. So the way you can check for bridge lift is like this. And I already checked. It's nicely glued. The break angle is too severe, and as you can see, that causes some damage to the strings, right? So we don't want a high saddle like this, for sure. We are going to measure the neck angle. But before we measure the neck angle, we need to make sure that the relief is within spec. And before we measure the relief, which I measure at the 8th fret, we got to make sure that the 8th fret is, well, it's a little higher here. There's a little rocking right there, but not here. And on the treble side, no rocking, okay? So we want to put the neck rest close to the heel so we don't add to the relief. I measure the relief already, and I know that the relief is 8/1000ths of an inch. Okay, so I'll show you. So we put the straight edge here on the bass side, 8th fret, 8/1000ths goes through. The next one is 11/1000ths, does not. Okay, so 8/1000ths. And now let's transfer this to the treble side. 8/1000ths goes through. Next one, 11. Where are we? Here. Does not. Okay. So the relief is within spec. I normally like the relief to be between 6 and 8/1000 of an inch when your frets are even, etc., etc. Okay? Since we know the relief is good, we want to measure the neck angle. So I take a longer straight edge and I project the fingerboard, the fretboard, all the way to the bridge. And if I here I push down, you see that it's rocking. Okay, so the neck is overset by a little bit. Now, let's just move the camera over here so I can show you a little bit more. And by the way, this is what we're doing, right? We are placing this straight edge over the frets and projecting the plane of the frets onto the bridge. And now we can see how much of a gap we have. This is our gap. We can even measure this gap with this tool. Okay, this is a wedge. It's metric. Okay, in millimeters. We can place it inside of this gap, and I can measure it is 1 millimeter, a little more. Yeah. Okay, about 1 millimeter. It's not too much, so I'm not very worried about the neck being overset. In fact, it might work to our advantage because the necks over time tend to move in this direction. So now it's a little bit overset, so it's probably a good thing in this case. I want to show you the nut, the string height. So I want to reset the camera angle first. Okay, so here we're looking at the nut. And when we push a string down against the second fret, we want to measure how much of a gap we get between the string and the first fret, right? So there's a little gap there. I can show you this with a feeler gauge. Let's say on this string, there's a gap, or all of the strings, right? And I'm going to use a dial indicator to measure this gap. So when this probe moves up and down, we can take a measurement here. It's metric. So each check mark represents 1/100th of a millimeter. It's indicated here. We want that gap to be between 2 and maybe 4 or 5 1/100ths of a millimeter. So let's push the string down against the second fret, and now we push it down against the first fret. So it moves significantly more than what we hope. Okay, especially on the B string, okay? G string, not so much, but still more than we want to. The D string. So that's about 12 1/100ths of a millimeter. The A string, not so much. And low E, yeah, quite a lot. We want the nut to be as low as possible, I mean the string slots, so that it's easier to play and we get the good intonation, etc. I did examine the guitar already, so I discovered that there's some damage to the nut. I want to, let me focus here. Okay, I want to show you this. We're looking at the high E string here. So I like the shape of the nut, and as you can see, the string is very tight at the front, and there's a little bit of slack at the back end, which is exactly what we want. The B string is also nice and tight at the front, and there's a little bit of slack at the back end. And now we're looking at the G string. It's also tight, which is very good, but there is a little bit of damage on the front here, okay? So it's chipped off. Here we're looking at the D string, and we see the same thing. We see a little bit of damage here. There's a part missing. And same thing here on the A string. And the E string is okay. All right? Except that we know that it is a little bit higher than ideal. Okay? So before we do a setup, I'm going to file the string slots on the nut to lower the strings at the nut first, adjust the relief, and then lower the saddle, obviously. Maybe we want to look at the soundboard deflection. I always look at that. What we see here is the soundboard. So it isn't flat. It shouldn't be flat. By design, it should be slightly curved. And when we place a straight edge, we can see how much, by how much, right? So this is kind of the upper limit, all right? We also want to look at the soundboard deflection from here, and we can see that it's actually very good. So we don't want to have a gap here, like we see on some guitars. Ideally, we wouldn't want to see a gap. We want to have like a high point here, which is exactly how it is, and maybe a low point here at the very front of the upper bout. And then here we want to see a gap so that it lifts if we push it down. So this is all good. What else do I want to show you? The frets. Well, the fretboard is good, but I did discover that some work had been done by a previous technician. And it wasn't spectacular work. First, let me show you that there are some uneven frets. It's not much, but there are some uneven frets. Like here we're looking, let's say, at the 5th fret. And with a fret rocker, okay, we can clearly detect that the 5th fret is higher than the 2 adjacent frets. But then, when I looked through the microscope, I discovered something. So now here I'm looking at the 4th fret. Let me just focus on the 4th fret. Okay, and as you can see, it's been filed. So you can clearly see that it's been filed. You can even see the particles from Yeah, fret material right there. Now that's not spectacular luthier grade work, okay? That's not what I would call the gold standard, all right? Now, how does it compare to the other frets if I move the guitar, one fret over? Okay, now we're looking at the third fret. And clearly you can see that this is the factory level of work, right? That very shiny, nice finish on the fret. Now the fret ends, honestly, they could be better. So I don't know if maybe this guitar had a little bit of fret sprout due to dryness, and some tech basically shaved off the fret ends and then just kind of left it like that without really rounding them off. I don't really know, but this is what we see. We can look at the pearl inlays through the microscope as well. Okay, so is it actual pearl? I don't know. It's not going to affect the sound, right? I did this. Look at this mosquito. I missed. I did discover that a few frets have been leveled, and I believe that whoever worked on the frets used this tool, the fret kisser, which is what I'm going to have to use to level off the frets that are higher, like this one. And we discovered that the 8th fret here has a little bit of a bump. But interestingly enough, I think the 8th fret has already been worked on. All right. So let's go back to the microscope view. And so here we're looking at the 4th fret, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. Okay. So it's still high, but as you can see, it's already been worked on. And, I don't really like what I see. And it's only been filed at the bass side. Again, the fret ends are not really that great. We do see a little bit of glue residue right there at the side. I don't know if this is factory work or if somebody else did it. It's all good. Now, what I want to do next is I want to remove the strings and have a closer look at that saddle. So just take the strings off. And I will put a capo on the neck to hold the strings down. All right. And then remove the strings. Where's my capo? Right here. Let's put it here. Okay. And now I use this tool to remove the strings. I'm sorry, to pull the pins. I keep the pins over there in the same order. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes it does matter if the low E string has a pin with a wider slot. Now let's have a look at this. I am going to just move the camera here first. And then just remove the saddle for you to see. And here it is. Oh, it's really nice and tight. I did pull it out before. Okay, so this is, you know, pretty good. There it is, okay? So it's a really tall saddle. There's no shim inside. Okay, so clearly we are going to shave the saddle and, you know, do a bit of setup on this guitar. I'm not really sure why this saddle is so tall. One last thing I want to do is examine the inside of the guitar. So I'll just use my phone. So the way I like to do it, well, I take pictures, but this time we'll do a video. Just turn the light on and do a wide angle thing, right? Wide angle. I'll start my recording and let's place the camera inside. Okay. Just got to make sure that I don't touch the screen, obviously. Okay. So hopefully I placed it in the right position so that you can see the bridge plate right here, and you can see that the holes are not damaged. So that's the point of this inspection. Now the guitar did come with an optional brass bridge plate. I want to show you here, which is really not recommended. Plate mate. Okay, so this can be installed on the inside. There's a picture here, and it says here damage caused from ball and strings, blah blah blah. Here it shows the damaged bridge plate, and this is to preserve the bridge plate. Now I don't recommend installing this. It's really not going to add to the sound. So the strings vibrate and they make things move, and a small part of this energy would be wasted in moving this piece of brass, which does not contribute to the sound. So I think I showed you everything that I had in mind. Now I'm just going to file the nut and do a setup. This is what an assessment of a guitar might look like at Guitar Quackery. So when you bring your guitar to my shop, the first thing I do is a full assessment, like the one you just saw me do, so that I know what the guitar needs, obviously. 9 times out of 10, I do this with the customer present, so the customer can just watch everything on a live monitor. Sometimes I do a pre-recorded assessment and I post a private link so the customer can watch it at home, and sometimes I schedule a Zoom meeting, all right? Now, if you happen to be watching this on Patreon, that means that you have contributor level membership, which means you have access to exclusive content. This video will now continue, and you will be able to see the full service unedited, showing all the work that I did on this guitar. Okay, so you don't need to do anything special. You can just continue watching this and enjoy the show. But if you're watching this on YouTube, you will now see a very watered down version of what I actually did on the guitar, you know, with just some highlights, and that's about it. So if you do want to see the full version, you should consider supporting this channel on Patreon at the contributor level. And that way you help this channel grow and it really helps me make more videos like this one, right? You can also click the link downstairs that says buy me a coffee if you want to just buy me a coffee. And that's about it. Now, the first thing I'll show you is how I fixed the nut. Not the entire process. We'll just look at one of the string slots, all right? Yeah, let's inspect the string slot first. Well, it feels like it's been filed with a V shape file, all right? So now when we hit it with the U shape file, it's going to hit the sides, as you can see. So we don't know how low that low point is, but you can clearly see some accumulation of particles at the bottom, right? So let's put the string back. Well, let's clean it up first. Put the string back. And take another measurement. It looks too high. I don't need to measure it. I just want to make sure that that the low point in this string slot, which is V shape, it was V shape, that it isn't too low. And yeah, let me hit it again with a file. Maybe at the backhand a little bit. Okay. It's still too high, and I can show you that with the dial indicator. Clearly too high. All right. So now we've already reached the bottom of what was a V-shape string slot, and now we can just continue filing. Yeah, those string slots are too deep from the surface. It would be good to lower the upper surface of the nut. But yeah, it's not budgeted for that. So I'm just going to do it this way. And that would add significantly to the cost. That's very close. Yeah, this bone feels very soft, so I am not going to go any lower. That's as much as I'm going to show you in this video. The rest is on Patreon. Next, I adjusted the truss rod, which adjusts the relief of the neck. I'm not going to show you this in this video, but it's available on Patreon because obviously I recorded everything. So after adjusting the relief, I can measure the action, which is the string height. And based on that measurement, I can determine how much to shave on off of the bottom of the saddle. The saddle was too high, right? Now for that job, I used a tool called a race car because it kind of looks like a race car, which you're about to see.
There you go. We're done. Now we remove this. So we release these two, whatever you want to call them. And I usually like to use something like this thing, gently, obviously. Okay. And there's a little internal plate there, which is really annoying, which is why I like to keep just a blank inside to hold that plate. Okay, just like that. All right, I put it away now. Put this away. Clean it. Goes here. All right, we're getting somewhere. We broke a string, no big deal. Now I'm going to reinstall the saddle and the strings, and we're going to try to play the guitar. Then we'll. So these are the old strings, yeah. We'll reinstall the saddle. Okay. Now it looks better, right? I think you agree with that. So the pins go back in the same order.
All right, there were a few frets that had to be leveled off against the two adjacent frets. For that job, I used a fret kisser.
The 8th fret, remember, is higher. On this side it's higher, right? On the bass side only. And now we want to check this fret here, 9th fret with the fret rocker. We're good. 10th fret is good.
The fret kisser is going to file down the top of a single fret against the two adjacent frets to make them all the same height. So obviously that's going to make the top of the fret slightly flat. So the next procedure is called recrowning. In other words, re-rounding the crown of the fret so that you don't have a flat spot on top. For that, I use crowning files. So I'm not going to show you that in this video. That's available on Patreon. And then next is a full polish of all of the frets, polishing and buffing. I'm not going to show you the whole procedure here, just a little bit. The whole procedure took about an hour and a half. The Patreon video is about 2 hours long. Obviously at the end I put a fresh set of strings, tune the guitar to pitch, check everything, and obviously I try to play the guitar.
I have these 3 string fragments here. Cut them. Recycle. Okay. Let's hear it. Where's that pick? Okay, I guess we won't use a pick. Oh, here it is. Let's measure the action. 75, maybe more like 74, 95. Good. I think this is pretty good. Okay, just make sure the pins are seated. We still have a quite, I wouldn't call it severe anymore, but quite a break angle over the saddle. So that's because the neck is overset. Okay, so let me show you that. Yeah, so we do have quite a break angle here. The saddle is still kind of high. The distance between the pin and the back of the saddle is very short. So I would prefer a different design. I would move these pins slightly further away from the saddle. That's, would be better, I think. You can see the break angle of the strings now. Okay, now the B string has more of a break angle than the E because of the compensation. And this one obviously has a severe break angle. I'm kind of worried about that, but there is really not much I can do about that. The guitar works. The frets look good, better than they looked before, and it plays okay. I always do this test. We're done. Oh, how long did it take? 1 hour and 46 minutes and 20 seconds.
Since this customer is on YouTube anyway, he didn't mind participating. Okay, so you're gonna see him on his channel. He only played a classical guitar. So now I guess he will incorporate this one. You might see it. Maybe it's already there. I don't know. You gotta check him out. Obviously, after you're done watching this video till the end. Yeah, so let's talk to Shantanu. Hey guys, Shantanu is a YouTuber. So came over here. When did you buy this guitar?
It's just been like a couple of weeks.
A couple of weeks,
Yeah.
Okay. So you saw the assessment. And I checked out your channel. You play a lot of classical guitar on your channel. I only seen you play classical guitar.
Yeah.
But you have a background in this kind of guitar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to play steel strings. I used to strum a lot of songs.
Right.
But then I got into classical for a while.
Yeah. And you're going to play something from the classical repertoire now?
That's right. Yeah. So I'll just play part of a piece called Recuerdos de la Alhambra by Francisco Tárrega. So here it goes. Let me get it.
listen to this all day.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. So this is like 2 voices or 3 voices?
So this is, I think it's basically 2 voices, where
voices, right?
we have the
The
tremolo
bass and
voice.
the tremolo,
yeah,
yeah.
and the bass is moving up and down.
But
there are some parts of it where there's a middle voice, which is just ringing out like. Dun, dun, like
okay,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're going to put a link to your channel, right?
That's right, yeah.
See you guys soon. There's more to the story, and I'm glad you're still watching the video. Maybe you heard a little buzz when I was playing the guitar, especially on that A major bar chord. Well, you know, I also didn't fret it all the way down, I think. But anyway, if you play the guitar, this guitar more aggressively, you will get a little fret buzz on the attack on the bass side. So, as you recall from the assessment, the neck on this guitar is overset. With an overset neck, you need to raise the saddle more than you should in order to get the correct string height. So the way I set up this guitar is with the action lower than standard. And that's to reduce the break angle of the strings over the saddle. I don't want the saddle to be too high. And even so, that saddle is still a little bit higher than I really want it to be, which results in a more severe break angle of the strings, especially the low E string. So I don't like that too much because of a couple of reasons. First, the low E string is more likely to break at that point because there's too much of a break angle. And second reason, more importantly, is actually with a high saddle, the string produces too much leverage at that point. So the bridge is being forced in this direction, and this can result in warping of the soundboard. So you get a S-shaped soundboard, a wave, right? And obviously that's not ideal. So I lowered the saddle as much as I could, which resulted in a lower action, which can result in string buzz, especially if you play more aggressively. So he thought he was getting a little too much buzz when he picked up the guitar, so I added just a little more relief on the neck. So maybe that'll work for him. We don't know. So I told him to play the guitar for a week and let me know. So now, in the event that he does get a little too much buzz on the bass side, we can attempt to fix it by changing the bass strings and just putting heavier gauge strings on the bass side. Perhaps come up with a hybrid set of strings. Right now, it's a 53 gauge string on the bass side. Okay, so we could simply put a 56 gauge string, and that might work fine for him or anyone, right? Especially because the strings are lower than they should be. So we'll see. If there's any news about this guitar, I'll let you know. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.